can see like so much work is put in there. And actually, that's not to talk about when it comes to drafting policies and proposals, which is like where youth really go through a lot. And all of this is actually unpaid, and we don't mind. It's not that we're asking, no, it's our duty to do this. So it feels really sad, the fact that you are being seen this way and you are not being trusted with your actions. So this is actually what hurts more than just being threatened or anything, is not believing in you.
Hi everyone, welcome to Now Boarding, a travel podcast by me, Payal Nair. This show aims at creating awareness about ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible travel, and a lot more. We will cover stories and journeys of people who are ecotourism specialists and those who are leaders in their field. We will also be talking to people who have had unique travel experiences, remarkable conceptual places to stay, unexplored cultures, and ancient histories of various towns and cities around the world. Join me in this journey of knowing more about travel. Get inspired to see the world and discover your inner self. Hi everyone. Today I am in conversation with the young and dynamic Selma Bishbish. Selma is a young climate and social activist. She's from Algeria. She's dedicated to driving change and advance SDGs. She has actively engaged with various programs and organizations, and we're going to hear all of that from Selma. Her passion for justice and advocacy highlights the crucial role of youth in decision-making processes and in policy formulation. She is the founder of Together for Blue and Green, which is a youth-led initiative in Algeria. She leads efforts to combat climate change and promote environmental action. And the organization focuses on addressing global challenges and raising awareness about environmental issues. And I'm going to leave the rest to Selma to talk about. So thank you so much for joining me today, Selma.
Of course, it's my pleasure, and I really appreciate your invitation. It means a lot to somehow showcase youth voices. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's absolutely very important. And I think the more conversations that are had around it, the more we will be able to see change. And you are an instrument when it comes to that. So I can't wait to hear all about your journey. So, can you share on how you got into social and climate youth activism? What kind of experiences actually influenced you in order for you to get into this space?
Again, first of all, I'd love to thank you one more time for your invitation and for just having such a beautiful initiative that is dedicated for people to speak out and to address their amazing achievements and also inspire, of course, the others to somehow follow the footprints, as we say. Going back to your question, yes, this actually, I get this question a lot, how I started, why activism work, why climate, why environment. Honestly, you can tell that this is something that I was so attached to, and it's because of my grandparents who used to be farmers. And now, of course, they're old, they cannot do the same work as they used to be anymore. And my grandpa already passed away. So it was mainly my grandparents who inspired me to somehow explore this agriculture sector, which till now is still defending. This year, I am one of the World Food Forum board policy members, board policy members, and in which we do policies, we form demands, and we somehow collaborate with the FAO for us to just push for this agenda of not neglecting agriculture as a sector that is not profitable, because it is eventually. And as if you were telling me, no need for us to go back to our ancestors' prints anymore, which is something that I'm absolutely against, because I get to know nature, I get to know what is it like to protect the environment and what is it like to secure food and to give, I would say, what is healthy to the people, what is organic. And that's what I have seen. That's what I have seen in my grandparents. They were always really having this good intentions to not only do this for the sake of profits, but for the sake of them creating something out of nature and just giving it out to people. I remember like my when I first used to plant with my grandparents, my grandpa used to convince me that I was the one who created that oranges that I planted. And I was like, and I wanted to create more of that. I thought in the beginning that was me. And then by the time I realized it was God. So I was just a reason behind that. It was pretty interesting how my grandparents really made me love what I'm doing more than just what I can gain from building this up. So I would say it was my grandparents at first place. And then of course, step by step, it was me being introduced to the amazing work other activists doing. So you can see that I got inspired by others. So that's why I always say keep telling your stories and somehow keep sharing what you have done, because some people will get inspired as I did. And this actually made me somehow rethink, oh my God, like nothing is happening in Algeria. What are we doing as youth in this case? No one is acting and other people are doing like so much and I'm just studying. That's definitely not the purpose of life. It's not only about studying. So I realized that I can still do something. I can still give out to my community. And this can be through very simple practices that I can just start out of nowhere. And the amazing thing is that when I first initiated this first call, which was in collaboration with the Kids Rights Foundation, it's a foundation based in the Netherlands who do support youth at a very young age to somehow start taking actions on the ground and leave their touch, as they say. So it was like pretty interesting because they really supported me with everything, and I had the chance to finally
So
take the very
did
first
you
action.
did you reach out to them, or did they connect with you seeing what you were doing in your community?
Actually, I saw it by chance when I was like Googling stuff. And I was like, I saw when you are young and you'd be like, oh, I want to change the world. What should I do, Google? So that's so that's actually what I have done. And Kids Rights Foundation was like among the foundations that I have noticed that they support youth at a very young age. I think starting from the age of 11 till 18. And I was still too young. So I was like, and I read that and I was like good in English somehow at that time. And it was pretty good to just read that they do give you anything you need, any support you need, just go and take your action. And know what are you passionate about after taking these actions, because you will know what you want. In the beginning, I didn't really thought much of agriculture and stuff because I forgot about that because it was with my grandparents. I thought I cannot take that to the next level. It was just like me. I wanted to know what I'm passionate about and what I can do. So I collaborated with them and I applied as everyone, and I got an approval, and they told me if you need any other support, they provided me with sponsoring letters, with certificates ready, like ready. I just give them to people, and they provided me with everything. So what I wanted in the beginning, I wanted to know what is SDG because I have seen it so many times. And I was like, what are these colors all about? What is like 1, 2, 3 till 17? Why poverty is there? Why? And I was like, what is it all about? So my curiosity made me think of, since I don't know, then so many people don't know. So I decided to know more about it and then create an event. It was actually a 5 days event in which I can invite people. Each one will somehow present some of these SDGs in their own way, like how they started their activism. And the crazy thing about this is that I was too innocent. So I was like, start reaching out to influencers, to these. I felt like they will reply and they were like, I was really too innocent, honestly.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, but I believed as well that it can happen. Like I was sometimes that's why they say ignorance sometimes is actually good because it will
yeah,
really benefit you a lot.
yeah.
So I started reaching out to people and telling them, please, if you can be a speaker on this event, it will be great to introduce people to, for example, SDG that is on health and well-being, SDG on education, gender equality. So I started reaching out to them, and I was like picking from profiles that I used to see in like webinars, just clubs, webinars. And I was just like, what I knew, I used it. The basic knowledge I had, I used it. So I started reaching out to them. And I remember like two of them were influencers. They had big presence in Algeria. One, he was a kid, but he was very famous. But also he was like more enrolled in education, advocating for somehow giving access to education to everyone. Like he was somehow advocating for this specifically. And the other one was on health and being, and he was like a pretty famous student in medical school, and he was like really doing a lot in medicine. So he got pretty famous on what he was doing as a student. So I decided to reach out to them, and also to three more speakers who were also like really doing great in in the Algerian community.
And they were
But
all
like,
different. They all were from different. They
yes,
focused
they
on
were all
different.
from different
Okay.
SDGs. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I started reaching out to all of them. And the good thing about this foundation is that they used very good terms, I would say, or language in the letters they gave to me for me to use them for support, as support. So I used them and I sent these letters to them, inviting them. And when you see sometimes a foreign entity, you'll be like, I'm not skipping that because it's not a big deal. So that was the case for them. And I knew this will help if we just, and even in my emails, I was insisting that this is a foreign entity and they will be somehow also given certificates for speaking. And I was just like, again, being innocent. And I felt like all of this will somehow help them to just say yes, because it's like a big offer. That's how I have seen it back then. So like I emailed all of them, and surprisingly, they all said yes. That they can actually speak. And then it was like really interesting because I have never expected they can actually come and say yes. And it was like a 5 days event. Like each day we presented something. And it was really amazing. And then I started spreading the word on channels, on these opportunities, channels that they do somehow promote opportunities. And imagine I was doing all this on my own. I didn't have a team behind, or I didn't have my NGO, or no, it was just me sharing the word with everyone and just waiting for that answer and waiting for them to just share my opportunity. And that's it. It was like a separate entity just doing this. So actually, and so many people applied. And some of them are even like now in my NGO. So imagine as members, just
Yeah.
like imagine.
Yeah.
So it was like really amazing opportunity, and it was a great start. It gave me really the sense of responsibility, the sense of never underestimate of this very tiny communications that you can do via email. Never underestimate the fact that some people actually may approve something no matter how big their status is, because you really never know. Like never underestimate anything. Like never say no, it won't happen or impossible.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't the case at all. And we had great outcomes eventually. And we even like at the end of the whole sessions, we told them if anyone wants to implement a certain SDG, what would it be? So most of them like said, for example, we went to have to know more about donations, blood donations, how it should work, how we can start initiatives on them. Some of them went on planting trees, and some of them went on educating kids on like environmental topics. And so each one like had their own somehow, let's say, understanding from the whole 5 days event, and they applied it in their own way. I got like messages, even some people were like even older than me, and they were telling me, please, how can we start such initiatives and what can we do? And I was like, you can do what I did. I don't know, I wasn't sure what I should give as an answer because
Yeah.
I was really young and I had no idea how to advise. So since then I decided to really focus on that, and like SDGs, link it to all what my grandparents have taught me, to what I have learned personally from this events, because I was also really learning with
Yeah.
them.
As
Like
you went along. Yeah,
yeah, I
absolutely.
really
So
learned a lot.
was this the catalyst for you founding Together for Blue and Green? That initiative, was this the catalyst, or that came later?
Actually, that came later.
Okay.
Way later. Yeah.
Okay.
This initiative was like, and really taught me a lot. Right after there was the Youth for Climate Summit, this Youth for Climate Summit was a very big deal because they only accepted 2 delegates from each country. And it was a ministerial event, like it was a high level summit. It was hosted in Milan, Italy. And they chose only, as I said, 2 delegates, female and male from each country.
Country.
So likely I was the female delegate who was chosen
Yeah.
based on the change making event that I have done. The 5 days event, I only talked about that one, and I talked about what I want to do too. So they really loved the small actions that I was passionate about and explaining like with love and passion and how impactful I got and others too. So it really inspired me a lot to explore that further. So I was accepted as a female delegate. And during that summit, I realized that there is a lot to work on. And people were like literally knowing, they knew a lot about policies, demands, recommendations, this kind of big conferences. Most of them, they were like attending so many conferences, and so many had their own NGOs, their own initiatives, even like their own programs for some of them, which was like, I was shocked. I was like, where am I from this? I'm very tiny in front of them. And even like the other Algerian delegate, he wasn't even like living in Algeria. He was living in Belgium. He just has this nationality, Algerian nationality, but he doesn't he doesn't know anything about Algeria. So he was like really experienced, and he works at the EU. So I was like, dude, what am I in this? I had no idea what I should do. And but the thing is that I was like really listening to them and what they were somehow doing in their own communities. They were discussing the challenges, how each one started solving their own problems. And I also, the best part is that I had the chance to meet people from my region, the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa. So I had the chance to meet with them, talk to them, because I was like, it was my first experience ever somehow going out and like being surrounded by people who are from my region, who are doing stuff in the ground. During that time, we noticed that the Europeans and the Americans and also the Africans, they were like talking about, so after the summit, which they would talk about the plans after, I would say, post Youth for Climate Summit. And most of them were like talking, and they were like discussing that they can do it with their own council. Like they had their own council, the Europeans, they had to follow up with these negotiations there and like somehow take it to the next level where they can implement it in their own communities. And we, the MENA region, were like, how are we supposed to do this? We don't have our own space as they do. So we decided together to come together and create our own council since we don't have one. So let us be the first to do it. We don't want from the coming generations to have this conversation again while everyone is having already councils. So we thought really, I really love the fact that we thought about the next generations during that moment that we had. And I love the fact that we decided to immediately start planning on the council. While people were actually having negotiations, we were actually planning for how we can start this council. So it was pretty funny, but we were like trying to link it with the manifesto that we made there, and then link it to the council and how it should relate more to the environmental aspect. So that's how we created the MENA Youth Network. And now it's actually one of the biggest regional networks in the MENA region. We started it as 5 delegates, and now we are 4, one left, unfortunately. So we are 4, and we are like really doing great. We had our own presence in COP28 and COP27, and we're having also one of the delegates, one of the co-founders also, she was the WF of the World Food Forum, also a youth policy board member last year, and this year it's me who is the one at this board. So like we and also we collaborated with the FAO when we had our own policy and youth statement. So we have this collaboration with the FAO, and it was pretty good because like we are collaborating with UN entities. We are being invited as well sometimes to give interventions as representatives of the MENA region. We're also being reached out to nominate also people and youth to somehow contribute to events or whatever. So we are really having that big presence. And imagine it started all by meeting and deciding to create something. And here we are really doing great. So right after, and this one, since after making this regional network, I had the chance to also attend another conference in Romania, and they actually were offering grants for any project ideas. And I have noticed that the environmental mindset is not really having great presence in Algeria. So I suggested my idea, and I was among the top 5 ideas to be funded so that I can start my NGO. And it started from there. Right after co-founding the regional network, I founded my own NGO Together for Blue and Green, and that's how we are now present.
So talk a little more about your nonprofit. Firstly, did you face any obstacles or any challenges? Because you're young, you're a woman, there are certain factors which could have gone against you. And so was it like smooth sailing, or did you have to face some challenges in order for you to convince your community or your region that this is something that you can do, and your ideas and your initiatives will make a difference and create an impact, and you are a voice for the country and for the region. So did you have any obstacles?
Honestly, there must be obstacles. This kind of journey is like, wow, like really, you have to go through a lot. And as I stated before in one of the interviews I had in the forum, MENA activists or activists from the Middle East and North Africa are incomparable to other activists. We are like, we got it, like, we're living with it. We accepted the fact that we have to go through more challenges than the activist who is based in Europe. That's the case for us, and we have to deal with it. It's not easy at all. For example, speaking out and just addressing any struggle, you cannot do that easily. Yeah, you get threatened, like you get threatened and you have to deal with it. And imagine you being young at a very in your with this energy, with this so much love and passion to your community and serving it for free without even requesting anything. Like so many of us are even embarrassed sometimes to request funding, and we feel like maybe it's a burden, even though we're going there and like to serve and somehow to speak out about the challenges that we have seen happening, because we're the ones acting and taking actions on the ground, but we're still seeing this as a burden. So imagine this is actually what MENA youth are actually really going through. It's so many challenges. Personally, when I founded this NGO Together for Blue and Green, given the fact that Algeria is a very somehow restricted country when it comes to policies, when it comes to founding something, they think that you will get money. You just want to found something in order to get money out of it, and it's like a more of you serving your interests. And when they told me this, I was like, can people do this? Like, I had no idea that people actually can even do this. I can actually still do great without founding an NGO. It's like really so much, really, I want, how can I phrase it? Like, it really consumes a lot of time. So why should I consume a lot of my time as a student, as someone who can have a part-time job and get a lot of money? And I know, instead of just working for free and really, and when I say for free and like for hours, like literally me and my friend, we were like reviewing the applications yesterday, and it took us like till 5 a.m. reviewing them. So you can see like so much work is put in there. And actually that's not to talk about when it comes to drafting policies and proposals, which is like where youth really go through a lot. And all of this is actually unpaid, and we don't mind. It's not that we're asking, no, it's our duty to do this. So it feels really sad, the fact that you are being seen this way and you are not being trusted with your actions. So this is actually what hurts more than just being threatened or anything, is not believing in you. And what hurts more is that sometimes you find that the foreign entities are the ones who are funding you, who are trusting you, who are believing you, who are the ones giving you credits more than the ones from your own community or your own country, even though you are going there to speak out about their challenges, trying to figure out what solutions can be offered for my country, for youth. We're missing a lot. A lot is not being addressed by the government, and I am here to speak out about this. Why this and this is not being included, why youth are being disregarded every time. So what I'm doing is really serving back my community and youth mainly. So that's actually what hurts more than being threatened or anything, because you will forget it, but like the fact that there's no belief in you, and the ones who are supported are mainly the ones who can only bring profits to the community, that's pretty sad, honestly. The civil society aspect is still missing a lot in the MENA region, mainly Algeria, and I always say this again and again, even though I have been approached so many times to say good things about Algeria. No, actually forced to say good things about Algeria, because I had the chance to meet some of our decision makers, and it was pretty sad. Like, why the frick should I say good things while I'm stating facts? I'm gonna say facts, not good things. If you do good things, it would be my honor to say them. But when there's so many gaps in there and no one is addressing them, including yourself as a governor, then excuse me, my role comes here. So I guess these are actually the main challenges why sometimes you have to think twice. Even, for example, us, Together for Blue and Green, we are now preparing for a summer program under Youth AI for Climate Resilience and Civic Engagement, in which we will be somehow talking more on how AI can somehow be a tool to advocate for climate resilience and come up with more projects in the climate space. And we're collaborating with the EU and Med Dialogue. And we are really scared because sometimes when you collaborate with foreign entities, you won't really be so comfortable to just implement your actions, especially when you are not like dealing with them, like specifically, like they just provide you with a certain funding and you just go and do it. But like when they provide you with a venue and like directly, for example, through the embassy, we collaborated before with US Embassy and it was like fine. No, but this one, we are really freaking out because we're scared maybe what we're doing is they will not get it. And even though it's completely for you, it's completely free, it's complete all for youth to benefit and to learn new stuff. But like, why so much pressure and stress being put on youth? Like, we're really burdened enough already with the struggles that are happening in the region. Plus, the stress and pressure being put on us, believe me, it's not easy. Now, as someone, an activist in Europe, will never go through this. And like us as youth, and I keep on saying this, and I'm gonna say it like forever, someone from country of crisis and conflicts, and then plus climate change impact, plus endless struggles. And then on the other hand, you have the pressure of your government and policymakers, and oh, I'm being watched out. Maybe that I'm not paying attention to, maybe I don't know. Like all of this pressure at once, and you still need to be a quiet, activist, civilized one. So you can see it's not only about the obstacles or the challenges, it's actually deeper than that.
Okay. I can't really comment on that because it's unfortunate, it's your struggle. But I'm sure if the country has a lot of young people, if it is a young country, and if you do have a lot of youth who are willing to be involved and who are willing to, we're talking about the environmental issues, right? And that's really your focus. So I think we should probably go back to more on what your nonprofit as a social and environmental initiative, what are some of the things that you have done? I read that you are doing workshop and trying to foster green entrepreneurship, and you're showcasing those kind of impactful initiatives. So can you talk a little more about that? And what are the different kinds of workshops that you've done? You mentioned what you're going to do in the summer, but more from the point of view of contributing to the environment?
That's a good question. So basically, when we first started as Together for Blue and Green, mainly our first collaboration was with the university. And I really love the fact that they accepted us and they were like, of course, we would love to have people know more about climate, especially that the university is about marine studies. So it somehow really correlates with what we're doing. So for the workshop that we had was all with students, so we didn't have old people with us. It was really interactive, and some people were like being introduced to the climate aspect for the first time, and they have noticed how it really relates a lot with their majors. So the first workshop was more about climate justice. So we talked about the climate movement, how it started, why we need to advocate for climate activism. It was more of spreading awareness and teaching youth of more about what is truly happening in the world, why people are manifesting, why people are being scared and somehow freaking out sometimes from this climate struggles that they are going through, why the MENA region is the one being targeted the most with the climate impact, why we need to worry and we need to act more. So we started more of having this kind of workshops to first spread awareness, because what I believe is that some people think when you say climate change, they be like, oh, that's a scientific term. It needs so much academic background. So they don't know that it's actually somehow a term that is open for everyone to be involved in. And it's not something that you need to have an academic background on to act upon. So we started by simplifying this term to them and somehow explain that this is actually a global concern, that somehow it requires everyone's somehow inclusion so that we can fight it back. Of course, it's too late to fight it back, but at least lower the impact, because especially Algeria is being targeted constantly. So this is actually for the first workshops that we started doing. And then we have been nominated by MGCY, the major group for children and youth. This is actually pretty well known in, I would say, civil society internationally. And they nominated us to host the first MENA Youth Environmental Assembly. As, of course, as a MENA entity, they nominated us to do this. So I was pretty happy because it was like somehow we are now being involved regionally. It's not only nationally. It's true that we were doing this online, but we were actually given funding by the Swedish Institute. They provided us with funding so that we can fund the speakers, so that we can fund any ideas that comes into the, like anything, but we need to spend this funding on. And it was pretty good funding, honestly. For an online event, it was a pretty good one. We had this first regional MENA Youth Environmental Assembly, and it was like we had it in 3 days, and we hosted speakers from different entities in the MENA region, addressing different topics on peace and security as well. And it was like we're a mix of workshops where some people shared their interests, some people talked about other conferences that MENA youth are actually not aware of. So it was like a mix of everything where youth actually were really benefiting. And in terms of the entrepreneurial aspect, we dedicated small funding for ideas, like for project ideas, in case some of them wanted to initiate I don't know, actions or initiatives or whatever. We collaborated also with Peace First. It's also an organization that provides mini grants, $250 plus our funding. So it would be great funding somehow to initiate something, especially in the MENA region. We chose five top projects to fund them, and they were pretty good projects. Some of them, they had like turning organic trash into beauty products. Some of them they were like a variety of beautiful ideas. And some of them like had their own projects in which they can have like this summer school to teach youth about the importance of agriculture, how they can plant, like the basics of planting. And I love that. It's like a summer school where they can do it all outside, and it can be sustainably implemented as well. And more. The ideas were amazing. The sad thing about this is that for some of them who are living in countries of conflict, it was so hard for them to get the funding. Like, eventually they ended up not getting it because they didn't have access to their own banks. And it was pretty sad to somehow mention this in our report at the end, that they were not able to get their own funding. And even Peace First, which was like an organization that was supposed to somehow facilitate this, it was pretty hard for them. So eventually they ended up getting it in another country, another neighboring country, or meeting someone by chance for them to hand it to them. So imagine like the complexities of these, I would say, logistical barriers that will delay you from taking actions, that will delay you from inspiring your community and leaving your own impact just because of this tiny logistical problem. So you can see this is also part of the challenges that we mentioned before. But other than that, our workshops were always like really had diverse topics on food insecurity, even like technology. We had also a workshop on that, on how somehow we can use technology for us to somehow facilitate advocating for environmental topics, and also for scaling up eco-friendly and green startups and businesses. So it was pretty interesting, honestly. And this session specifically inspired me to somehow start an entire program that is dedicated for this, because I have noticed that the Algerian youth, they are really interested in everything related to technology and startups. So I was like, let me do a program for that. And you have no idea the amount of applications we received after doing this. So I realized that my community is obsessed with technology and profits making. So I was like, okay, we can do something like this, but we're going to link it to environment. I'm going to do it in my own way.
Yeah, the key factor is the environment and how to positively impact it. So I want to ask you, how do you balance your activism with other aspects of your life? Because you are a student and education, and you are in an undergrad program, so there's a lot of commitment there as well, and you're not even in your country, you're studying abroad. How do you manage to, because there's only 24 hours in a day, how do you manage to actually balance your life?
Yeah, I know. Actually, I get this question a lot from people. Like even my roommate, she told me like, I feel like you don't like studying, girl. Go and work. But honestly, it's like for me, activism work and what I do is like something that I flee to. So when I'm sick of studying, I go and run to this world. I feel like this what I'm doing is something that I'm really passionate about. And I feel like it doesn't really bother me because I enjoy it. It's not like something that I feel like I'm wasting time on, or oh my God, this is not fun. To me, it's fun. So like
It's
explain it to
your,
people.
yeah, it's your life's purpose, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah,
like I feel
yeah.
like I enjoy it. I enjoy it. So to me, when I'm doing this and then when I get serious is only when I study. To me, seriousness is only when I study, and formality is only in studying. But when I do this, it's just something I enjoy. Like I'm always with my friends. We meet also always, it's the same people I meet in every conference. So like I'm dealing literally, it's like another family of mine. So like we keep on meeting, we work together. It's pretty informal. We make jokes. It's like this informal space where you feel comfortable and somehow just, let's say, taking a rest. I feel like I take rest in those formal meetings, honestly. But I try really my best because sometimes I do have pretty hard courses, and at some point I have sometimes to give up some tasks that I do and try to have them done in another time. So I try really to balance things up because after all, my academics also should be priority, especially again as a scholarship student. I have to keep a note on that. I cannot really miss on any of my whatever scholarship requirements and commitments. It's pretty stressful sometimes, but eventually I manage, thankfully.
That's good. The one most profound learning experience or moment of growth for you as an activist, just one that has left a lasting impression on you, and which is what's going to propel you and keep you going with the kind of work that you're involved in. Just one.
One
Think
experience.
hard. Think hard.
Oh my God, that's so so mean.
Okay, let's make it two then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so honestly, the first one was my, of course, founding my NGO because this was a dream to me. Since I was young, I always dreamed of founding my own thing and interacting with Algerian youth, give them a space. And by the way, my NGO is the first Anglophone environmental NGO in Algeria. So we do everything in English. Everything. No French, no Arabic. All our programs are in English. So I feel like we're really special. I do see us this way. I don't know how others do see us, but it's like the first environmental Anglophone NGO. And I love the fact that we brought this new aspect to the Algerian community. And we always try to be as friendly, as welcoming as we can. I also love the fact that it's a space where we barely consider experience, or like we would love to be your first experience, and we hope will inspire you to love this activism journey and this community service environment. That's our motto. As for the second experience, honestly, it was the Youth for Climate Summit, again because it was my first ever conference I have ever attended, and I was so honored, and I was like really flattered the fact that I was like I was selected as the female youngest delegate. Even like the age comparison between me and the other delegate was like, and I was like, and they had believed in me and they gave me this, and they somehow believed in the passion that I had in my words while filling the application form. So this really left deep impression in me. Until now, I'm still like in touch with the coordinators of the Youth for Climate Summit. I always meet them in every conference and we interact and we have interviews with them. So it's an experience that I will always keep on mentioning in every interview I have because it really taught me a lot. And it was somehow the experience that opened my eyes to what is truly happening in the world and what does it mean to really do something impactful. Because I was comparing myself to the actions everyone were doing, and I was like, there's a lot to be done. I better focus on that. I better start working. I would say I better start working more on myself first in terms of learning and second in terms of implementing. And I loved how they were a reason behind me realizing this, honestly. So thanks to this summit, these are the two valuable experiences to me that I will always keep on remembering. I'm gonna tell my kids that too.
I think these are the two experiences that will always, that obviously impacted your life
Yes.
and impacted what exactly you have set yourself out to do. And given your grit and determination, I am pretty certain, Selma, that you will go through with it. I think that the more people you talk to, the more you're heard, the more platforms that showcase the kind of work that you're doing. I think the the more and more awareness there will be. And I think the kind of encouragement that you are offering the youth in your country and within your community, allowing them to also start to think outside the box and all focused on the environment and how important and crucial it is, and how, yes, it may be a little too late because we've left it so late for when it comes to climate change. But I think if we're still able to in any way control it at this stage by doing all the different kinds of initiatives that people, young people like yourself, have taken it upon yourself to do within your, I think it's important, that you focus on your community and you focus on, and that's where it starts from. And then you will then influence others within your community who will take it one step forward. So it's like a chain, and you're the pioneer. And there are others who will follow you, and I think it just then becomes bigger and bigger as something which is going to then start to have a cascading effect. So I think it's more power to you, and I am sure that you're going to go places. So thank you so much, Selma. I've really enjoyed listening to you, and it's very encouraging to hear that passion in your voice. And obviously, every single thing that you have said has come from the bottom of your heart, and every initiative that you're working towards is something that you want to see as change, and you want to encourage the young people in your community to be able to see that it's possible to do. And I think that is the key. And so keep moving forward, and good luck.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate it. This means really, I hope really like somehow any of this will inspire others to take better steps, actually. Yeah, sometimes we even think maybe we're not doing enough as activists, and it's never enough, no matter what you did. But I hope like the coming generations will do way better, and we're always here pushing for the best we can do. So I appreciate your kind words. Thanks also to people like you who are being there somehow to give a space and floor to youth to somehow be more expressive and address this kind of struggles that we hope it will be fixed. It's just all about filling those gaps. And I hope through these kind of initiatives and platforms, as you did, would be somehow a great chance for other youth to easily express and somehow send their messages easily. So I appreciate you one more time, really, for your time and for your opening comfortable space. I would say your salon.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of Now Boarding, a travel podcast. Check out other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts with us. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes only on Now Boarding, a travel podcast.